many of you like the snow? Anybody? Anybody? Going once? I'm not a big fan. I like how it looks, but I don't know why I live in Michigan, honestly. I don't think I was made for it. I feel so tired and cold when it gets dark at 5 and everything's snowy. And then in the middle of the night, you wake up like me, and I thought it was 7 in the morning. Did anybody do that? Because like the moonlight refracts off the snow. And so I woke up and I thought, oh man, I forgot my alarm. I missed my alarm. Oh no. And so I'm like running around and I'm wide awake, and it was only 2:30. But the moonlight was so bright. But I don't know, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it's fine. And it's the great equalizer, and I'm happy for that. Did anybody watch the game yesterday? Alright, so about a third of you are Michigan fans, I take it. The other half didn't really respond. That's okay. That's okay. But it is the Christmas season, so I'm wearing my new Santa shirt. Does anybody get it? Anybody? It's a font. I created that for CJ, and he's not even here. So I feel like he would have liked it. He would have liked it, huh? Well, he would have liked it. It's kind of like a graphic designer nerd joke, but I don't know. Alyssa Reynolds designed it, and she drew that all there, so which was awesome. So if you ever need a t-shirt or a shirt made. So this Christmas season, we're going into a new series, but not yet, but we're going to be going into a new series called The Countdown to Christmas. We're going to start that next week, and I'm very excited because though I do not like the snow and the cold and it getting dark at 5:30 in the afternoon, I do love Christmas. I'm a big Christmas fan. I love Christmas music, I love Christmas presents, I love Christmas decorations, I love Christmas lights. I don't know why, I love Christmas, and I think there's a few reasons why, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But it is a busy season, right? Now it's not that busy for me, right? I don't have kids, I don't have like a bunch to do for Christmas. I kind of just go wherever the family tells me to go. And I don't need to stay there forever because, again, I don't have kids. I drive my own car, so I can just kind of leave, functions early, which is nice too. But it's not very busy, for me. But I understand that for many of us in the room, Christmas time, from Thanksgiving to New Year's, is probably the most busy season of the year. Is that true? Do people kind of agree with that? Like, yes, this is busy. We're running back and forth. We just got done with Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving that kind of starts it off, right? Because Thanksgiving, it's not just like getting together with your family and your friends. It's actually cooking a meal. Like a big meal. Everybody has to make something. I made the turkey this year, and it turned out good. It turned out real good, even though I was very concerned that it was undercooked and everybody was going to die of salmonella. I was very concerned, because I cut it open, and all the little carrots that I put inside this thing were not cooked all the way through. I said, Lord, you can kill all the bacteria right now. But it turned out really good. Nobody got sick, so it was good Thanksgiving. But everybody's got their thing to make, everybody's got their thing to bring, everybody's got their responsibilities. Then you go home, you start putting up the Christmas decorations. If you're not a psychopath, you put them up really early. You put them up after Thanksgiving, you turn on some Christmas music for the first time after Thanksgiving, right? And it kicks off this crazy season. Now you're thinking of Christmas presents, and did I get all my Christmas presents? I need to wrap those Christmas presents. I need to hide those Christmas presents. I need to find the perfect thing for every perfect person. And I'm going to have to exclude some people this year, but they're going to get it. They understand that I can't get a present for everybody. It's kind of hectic. Not to mention, we still have this thing called school. So I'm a teacher. I teach history, middle school history. And if you're a parent, you probably feel this tension too. It's like from Thanksgiving to Christmas, it's like, what are we really doing here? Because honestly, you're not going to be learning too much because there's so many Christmas parties, there's so much stuff going on. It's like, let's just take the whole month of December off. Is anybody with me? Yeah. Some of you are like, no, please keep my kids in the school. I'm like, please take them, please. We do not want them. But it's a lot. I can't start a new history unit because it's only like 2 weeks of real school. That's only 8 days. To learn like a whole unit of history, that's basically impossible. And so what I end up doing is just showing episodes of the Liberty Kids from PBS. Does anybody remember those? Okay, PBS came in handy. I'll show Curse of Oak Island episodes. It's basically just watching TV and National Treasure in my history class during the holidays, because there's really not much I can do. But it still happens, and there's still homework, and there's still events, and basketball's starting up, and so there's basketball going on. I'm sure there's some other winter sports out there that I don't know about, but there's a lot to do. And we get caught in this season of Christmas, in the season of hurry. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the tension between hurry and presence. Not presents like Christmas presents. We're talking about like presents like I'm here. I'm here. There's a story. In the Bible where Moses goes up on to the mountain to meet with God, and God gives Moses a very clear command. He says, "When you get up on the mountain, I want you to be on the mountain." Sounds redundant, right? Moses, climb to the top of the mountain. And when you're on the top of the mountain, I want you to be on top of the mountain. Well, yeah, what else? When I climb onto the mountain, I'm on the top of the mountain. Why does God need to specify that? The word's hayah. It means to be present. Because God knows that the second Moses climbs to the top of the mountain, he's going to start thinking about what? How he's going to get down. He's going to start thinking about all the things going on in his life that he has to deal with when he gets off the mountain. He's going to start thinking about the people of Israel who are at this very moment casting a golden image, a golden idol. He's going to start thinking of all those knuckleheads that he has to lead to the promised land. God says, when you get to the top of the mountain, be on the top of the mountain. Be present on the top of the mountain. That's what this word presence is referring to today. We're going to talk about the tension between hurry and presence. And that it is very true that the struggle is real. The struggle between hurry and presence is real. And now since CJ isn't here this morning to tell an embarrassing story about feet, figured I would. Is that cool, everybody? You with that? See? You thought he was getting out of it. We were going to Cedar Point, and I don't know if you've ever taken a group of students to Cedar Point, but it's probably the worst decision you can make as a youth leader. Because the good thing is they're kind of stuck in the park. You know, there's only one entrance, one exit. So they're there, somewhere. But the problem is, you really don't know where they're at. And I underestimated the negligence of teenagers on this particular trip. See, I thought when I said 100 times, be at the Starbucks, you know the Starbucks right at the entrance? Be at the Starbucks at 9:45. That they would be at the Starbucks at 9:45, right? But the problem was, I was naive. I was simple-minded. I didn't understand that these students could not care less. That they knew something, and they leveraged this knowledge very well. They knew that I wasn't going to drive home without them, because I would get in trouble with their parents, right? And they knew that. They knew I couldn't leave. They knew they had the power to stay. So at 9:45 or 9:30, I get to the Starbucks, and I'm expecting all the students to be 10, 15 minutes early, as they should. Nobody's there. I'm like, all right, this is fine. It's fine. So I start texting people, all the leaders, all the students, like, hey, you guys want to, try heading back? That'd be cool. I know it's kind of a hike when you're all the way back at Steel Vengeance to make it to the Starbucks. Oh yeah, we're on our way. Oh, we're waiting in line. We're stuck in line. We're about to make it. Or, oh, the dragster stopped while we're stuck on the. It's like, okay, you're texting me right now. But some time rolls by. Gets to about 10 o'clock. Not everybody's there. People who were there end up going into Starbucks. And then finally, the other group, about 10:15, gets there. So we're only 30 minutes late behind schedule, and I'm somebody who I really want to keep my itinerary schedule, and I do a good job at that. We just went up to where were we at? Marquette, and we made a lot of stops, and we were on schedule. Heather, Alyssa, we were on schedule. Lana is laying here. We were like perfect, to the T, on schedule for this road trip. And I want to make sure, because I told parents that we'd be back at like midnight, and I don't want them to be waiting around in their cars for, 30 extra minutes to an hour, I don't want that. You guys got stuff to do. And so I figured, well, we still got a little bit of time, we can make it. Finally, everybody gets there, about 30 minutes late. We start heading to the bus, and I am pretty upset. 30 minutes late. So I get all the boys in my shuttle, and then we have all the girls in the van, and we send everybody off. And I was going to get on the highway, but the Lord told me not to. And I'm serious, just like in the back of my mind, just take the back road. All right. So I start driving, and I am like, all right, maybe there's like, an accident on the highway that I'm going to avoid. Maybe it'll be faster taking the back roads through Ohio back home. And I'm fuming this entire drive, just like trying to push it as fast as I can to get home so we can get there on time. And right in the middle of this giant cornfield, some lights start coming out of the dashboard. And I'm like, what? What's going on? And my steering wheel locks up. And I start hearing like the sputtering in the shuttle. I have no idea what's going on here, so I just try and keep going, and now we're not going any faster. And I realized I had run out of gas. Because in my hurry, I was trying to get there so fast that I passed the gas stations. I wasn't thinking about stopping. That was the last thing on my mind. I was 30 minutes late. I wasn't thinking about stopping, so I passed every gas station, and now we're in this long stretch of country road in northeast Ohio, and we run out of gas. And I'm still hurrying. I'm still in this place of like, I really want to make it on time. So I'm trying to figure out what to do. The other van had already gone ahead, and I'm like, you know what, we're going to be late, they might as well be on time. So I just told them to leave. I just told them to go. Mistake number one. We didn't have like AAA or anything like that, so I called the boys in blue. They're supposed to handle things like this. I said, hey, I've got a bus full of 15 boys. They're getting rowdy, and I'm stuck on the side of the road. All right, we'll be out there. I said, thank you. First cop shows up 30 minutes later. Right? Does not bring any gas. This is why I called you, to bring the gas. Oh no, we don't bring gas. We don't do stuff like that. So why did you even come? I could have walked. He goes, well, I'll tell you what. We can go get some gas. I said, great. Go get some gas. Oh no, I can't leave you guys here. Can't leave you here alone. I'm like, we've been here alone this whole time. No, I gotta call for backup. He sits there for 30 more minutes. As another cop pulls up, I'm like, all right, great. This cop's bought the gas. Nope. No gas. This cop gets out, and she's very, very nice, but I'm like, I still need gas. Oh, I'll tell you what, how about one of those boys comes in the cop car, and they take your credit card, and we go get gas. I'm like, fine. So I choose Cole, because he was making me so mad this entire trip. He would not shut up. And I was already at my wit's end. And I gave him one rule this entire trip, and he broke that one rule. I won't even say what that one rule was. But he broke it. And it was an easy, stinking rule to not break. So I'm mad. So I send Cole, because Cole's the trustworthy one. So he goes in the cop car, gets the gas, comes back, we fill up, then we can go, finally make it to the gas station. Then after the gas station, we fill up. Now we get to make it back to the church, like 2 hours late. Not bad, right? 2 hours late, and I was so upset. I was just so upset. Because what could have just been a 30-minute deficit has now turned into 2 hours because I was rushed and I didn't stop to refill. Are you following me? This season, this Christmas season, it's so easy to feel like you're behind, and then the inclination we have is to, I need to amp things up, I need to hurry up. That's not what you need to do. You need to stop and fill up. Or take the train next time when you go to Cedar Point. I'm going to take the train. We're going to train run to Cedar Point. Right? It's kind of cool. You need to stop, refill. I have this book here, and I'm going to be teaching a little bit out of this book here today. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Has anybody read this? Okay, this is a great book. I actually like to give this book away. Who can name that type of train? Anybody a train enthusiast? Who's looking at their Christmas season and is going, yeah, this is going to be a lot to handle? Anybody? I want to bless you with this book. This is a great book. Okay? Anybody? Who wants the book?
Nobody wants it.
Yes. Okay. Oh, perfect. All right. Great. This is one of my favorite books. I read this book during quarantine, during the 2 weeks to slow the spread. When it was 2 weeks. And I'll be honest with you, I loved quarantine. I loved it. It felt like I was a kid again in the early 2000s. It was easy. There wasn't much going on. I went on walks. I rode my bike. Walked around the neighborhood. I'd sit outside. I'd read. I'd play board games. It was simple, and I kind of appreciated that. And ironically, I was reading this book at the time. This book is really going to hit the nail on the head when it comes to what a lot of us struggle with, especially in our American society. And he's going to talk about this concept of hurry sickness. Hurry sickness. Here's a couple of the symptoms of hurry sickness. The first symptom here is irritability. Irritability. If you're wondering if you struggle with hurry sickness, this is one of these symptoms. Irritability. Do you find yourself becoming increasingly irritable? When people interrupt you, when people do they become a nuisance? Are you irritable when Zeke's in the back of the shuttle bus and he's just yelling? And are you irritable? Does that make you mad? Right? Maybe you have some hurry sickness. Number 2, hypersensitivity. Hypersensitivity. You're becoming increasingly more sensitive. Do little things just cause you to break and explode. There's a straw that broke the camel's back because the camel was already carrying a great load. Right? You're hypersensitive. Number 3, restlessness. Do you find yourself, when you are trying to rest, do you find yourself kind of fidgeting? Do you find yourself thinking of other things to do? Are you able to relax? Number 4, workaholism. Are you constantly thinking of the next thing you have to do for your job? Are you constantly checking items off your to-do list? Are you consumed with that, or are you able to turn that off and focus and be present? Number 5, emotional numbness. This Christmas season, do you find yourself not enjoying going to see all the Christmas trees, all the Christmas lights with your family? Do you find yourself not really experiencing that nostalgia? Do you find yourself not being as happy, not being as excited? Number 6, out of order priorities. You prioritizing things differently. Maybe you've put your devotional time with the Lord on hold so that you can complete some tasks that you have to manage. Maybe you're missing spending time with your kids because you're just behind on this last project, and if you can just get that done, then you can reorganize your priorities in a healthy way. Lack of care for your body. I'm in this one, man. I went to Jeff the other day, and one of the things he said, he goes, stop drinking water, you need to drink water. I'm like, that's true. I need to drink water. And I brought water. You see, it's not even open. Here. I brought it because I knew. I was like, I need to drink water. And Jeff's going to be here watching. All right. Wash that down. This guy can't. Oh, man. But lack of care for your body. You know? What are we eating? What are we putting in our body? You know, that Jeff said the other day, he goes, Casey, if I took this cup of coffee and I put it in your car engine, would you be upset? I said, I wouldn't. He goes, so why are you filling your body with sugar and carbs and not drinking water? It's true. Right? So I gotta take steps there. Escapist behaviors. You find yourself, when you're overwhelmed, just trying to escape and turn everything off. Going to video games, going to movies, television, trying to just get out of reality so that you can maybe focus on something that's less stressful for you. Number 9, slippage of spiritual disciplines. Maybe you put your Bible on the shelf for a little too long because you I just want to sleep in maybe 15 more minutes. I'm just going to put that over there. Maybe that time that you used to spend in prayer, maybe that's just kind of become a second thought. And now your prayers are short, they're simple, they're not really involved anymore, you're not really communing with God. Maybe you're coming to church, once or twice a month instead of every week. It's not that hard to come to church, let's be honest. It really isn't. It's a spiritual discipline. It's a spiritual discipline to wake up, and good for everybody here. It's a spiritual discipline to wake up when it's snowing and get in the car and get to church. That's a spiritual discipline. You're disciplining yourself, saying, you know what? This is a priority for me. I'm going to gather around people who love the Lord, who are going to encourage me, I'm going to get into the presence of God, and I'm going to worship with my friends and my family. That's a spiritual discipline. Maybe things are just getting too busy, and you're like, I don't know if I'll just watch online this week. Isolation, number 10. Isolation. Are you finding yourself becoming increasingly isolated? Do you find yourself maybe feeling a little more lonely than normal? Are you turning off relationships so that you can make time for all the to-do items? Hurry sickness is a real thing. And I think it's important to be talking about right now, especially in the season of COVID, the virus. We take precautions against the Cova Virus, right? We wash our hands, we use hand sanitizer, when we're at the gas pump. I've always done that, but still, I always think it's gross. Somebody's touching that gas pump before you. I'm going to use my hand sanitizer, right? If we're not feeling well, we may distance ourselves. We may put on a mask, right? There's tons of things that you can do. We've learned that the more we eat healthy, the more we exercise, that's going to help us, in creating a strong immune system, right? With vitamin C, zinc, vitamin D, all these things that are precautions that we can take to help us fight this virus. What precautions are you taking against hurry sickness? I want you to think about that for a minute. What precautions are you taking against hurry sickness? Because hurry sickness is a real thing. Multiple psychologists are actually using this term now to describe the increase, the uptick in anxiety and depression. And they're attributing it to this constantly running hurry mentality that we have here in America. Becoming a new thing. Kids are getting hurry sick. They got to go to school. And they got to get their homework. Then they got to go to basketball. Then they got to go to lifting. Then they got to go to their play. Then they got to go to this event. And then this event. And then do this. They've got a lot to do. Are we teaching kids how to have safe precautions against hurry sickness? Are we helping them learn how to relax? John Mark Comer gives some advice in his book. One of the things he says, one precaution he can take, and he says this is just to help retrain your brain. He says when he goes into a grocery store and he sees all the lines, here's a key. If you're hurry sick, you're going to go for that shortest line. Every time. You see all the lines, you see the long line, the short line. A hurry sick person goes right to that shortest line. And do you ever find yourself in that line and then realizing, they actually have a big cart full of things. I'm going to go to this line. Have you ever found yourself doing that? Might be a little hurry sick. I do this too. John Mark Comer says one of the things he does is he intentionally chooses the longest line. Puts himself in situations where he's going to have to wait. I love that. After reading his book, you know what I started to do when I went to the grocery store? I started parking in a spot that wasn't the closest. Because my instinct, I'm going to drive to the closest spot. I'm going to find the best spot. And now I'm like, you know what? I can walk. I have the time. I'm going to intentionally go a little further away, and park a little further away, so that I'm just retraining my brain not to be hurried. Now this is tough. It's very difficult to do. I love it. He says he never impulse buys. You know impulse buying, when you're standing in line and you see that one item, you're like, I'll just get that. When you're scrolling through Facebook and that perfect ad pops up about the item you were just talking about with your friend 5 seconds ago. And you're like, man, they know me so well. I'll buy it. He says, don't impulse buy. Just wait. Wait at least a day to buy something that you want. Wait at least a day. It's a good little strategy, good little tip. Maybe you finish your coffee before you turn on the TV in the morning. Maybe you keep your phone off an hour, the first hour after you wake up. We need to actively retrain our brain against the hurried culture we live in. One of the things I like best about the school I'm teaching at is it's an hour away. And I didn't think I would like that as much as I do. But what it does is it gives me 2 hours of my day, 2-hour commute, where I can't do anything else but sit and drive. That's the first thing I do in the day. I drive an hour. Right after school, I drive another hour. And it's actually become like one of my favorite parts of the day, because there's not much going on. Right? I can just turn on some music. I can listen to a podcast. I can call a friend because I have the time to do that. And then I just drive. And then there's a nice 20-minute period on Ridge where I get no service, so I have to just sit there. That's nice too. And we can talk a lot about kind of the practicals of hurry and living a life where we're more present, but how does Jesus live in this culture of hurry? And what can we learn from Jesus? I have 3 stories. John 11, 1-7. It says, now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. This Mary, whose brother Lazarus was now sick, was the same one who put perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. When he heard this, Jesus said, this sickness will not end in death. No, it is for the glory of God, that God's Son may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister, and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. And then he said to his disciples, let's go back to Judea. Now I like that the preface here, it says, now Jesus loved Mary and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard Lazarus was dying, he what? Waited. He loved them, so he waited. That seems pretty counterintuitive, doesn't it? Jesus waited. Jesus knew that when he showed up, it was going to be just as easy to heal him as it was to raise him from the dead. It can be no more complex for Jesus. He can heal the same as raise somebody from the dead. But he waited. Why? There's no situation in which we need to rush and hurry and not be present. Because that presence, that being present, that piece of our soul, that's going to give us exactly what we need to when we do get to that situation, be be able to respond. Mark 5:21-35 says, "And when Jesus had crossed again to the boat to the other side, a great crowd gathered around him, and he was beside the sea. Then came one of the rulers out of the synagogue, Jairus. And seeing him, he fell at Jesus' feet. And he implored him earnestly, saying, 'My little daughter is to the point of death. Come, lay your hands on her, so that she may be made well and live.' And Jesus went with Jairus. And a great crowd followed him and thronged about him. And there was a woman who had a discharge of blood for 12 years, and who had suffered much under many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and she was no better off, but she was getting worse. She had heard the reports about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his garment. For she said, 'Even if I touch just the hem of his garment, I will be made well.' And immediately the blood flow stopped, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. And Jesus, perceiving in himself that power had gone out from him, immediately turned about to the crowd and said, 'Who touched my garment?' And his disciples said, 'You see the crowd pressing against you, yet you say, Who touched you?' And he looked around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear and trembling and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to you, 'Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease.' While he was still speaking, there came from the ruler Jairus' home someone who said, 'Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?'" Think of this story. You're the father with a sick daughter, and you've just made it to Jesus, and he's agreed to come to your house. You're bringing Jesus to the house. Come on, Jesus, hurry. She really, I don't know how much longer she has. Jesus, come on. And then a woman interrupts Jesus. And Jesus doesn't push her off and keep running with Jairus. Jesus stops. Imagine Jairus during this entire encounter of the woman with the issue of blood. Imagine that entire encounter where Jesus is talking to this woman. They're trying to figure out who touched him. Just standing there like, come on. Jesus. Man, we don't have time. Imagine that panic, that anxiousness of Jairus waiting because Jesus isn't in a hurry. And Jairus is. Imagine. Jesus goes on to the home and he raises the little girl from the dead. How about in John 5:17-20? It says, "One day Jesus was teaching, and the Pharisees and the teachers of the law were sitting there. They had come from every village of Galilee and from Judea and Jerusalem, and the power of the Lord was with Jesus to heal the sick. Some men came carrying a paralyzed man on a mat, and they tried to take him to the house to lay him before Jesus. When they couldn't find a way to do this because of the crowd, they went up on the roof, dug a hole, and lowered him on his mat through the tiles into the middle of the crowd, right in front of Jesus. When Jesus saw their faith, he said, 'Friend, your sins are forgiven.'" Jesus is teaching. He has the Pharisees, the teachers, the leaders of the Jewish community right there in front of him, and there's an interruption. A man who's paralyzed. He's interrupted. And what does Jesus do? He completely ignores what he was doing, teaching to the Pharisees, and he focuses on this person. One final story in Matthew 19:13-15, it says, "The people brought little children to Jesus for him to place his hands on them and pray for them, but the disciples rebuked them. Jesus said this, 'Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these.' When he placed his hands on them, he went from there." Jesus is teaching again, and now people are interrupting him, this time bringing their kids. "Jesus, you're here, kid." Jesus, I could just imagine like Jesus piled a bunch of kids sitting on his lap, The disciples are like, whoa, can't you see he's busy? And Jesus rebukes the disciples. He says, "No, you guys don't get it. I'm not in any hurry. And these interruptions aren't interruptions to me." See, Jesus doesn't treat people like a problem. Time and time again, we see the disciples treat people as the problem. They rebuke people for interrupting Jesus. Why do they do this? It's because people are not supposed to be interrupting the rabbi. People aren't supposed to be asking things of the rabbi. People aren't supposed to be stopping and touching the rabbi. People are supposed to be listening to the rabbi. They're supposed to be quiet near the rabbi. They're supposed to be seated near the rabbi. They're supposed to be serving of the rabbi. If a rabbi comes into your home, you serve them. You don't ask for something. These people are going completely against culture here. You don't treat the rabbi this way. The rabbi is prestigious, and yet Jesus is retraining the way we think. And he says, I'm fine with the interruptions. I'm fine with the interruptions. We think of all these things we need to accomplish in the day. When people interrupt us, we think of them as something getting in our way. But what if all the things you need to do today are less important than that one interaction? What if that old friend you randomly saw in the grocery store wasn't a speed bump in the way of your productivity? What if you had a conversation, asked them how they were doing? What if you stopped to pray for them? What if you encouraged them? What if the reason for your day wasn't to check off your to-do list? What if the reason for your entire day was to be a light to that one who interrupted you? If you walk away from this Sunday encouragement with anything, I want it to be this. What if the reason for your entire day was to be a light to the person who interrupted you? This Christmas season, when you're so busy and you have 100 things to do, you're trying to check everything off your to-do list, and that one person interrupts you. What if that's the whole reason for your day? For you to be an encouragement, you to love them, you to care for them. What if while you're wrapping all your Christmas presents, your kid runs in, hanging all over you, jumping around? What's more important? What's more important? To get the Christmas presents wrapped? I see people in the grocery store all the time that I went to high school with, and I'm telling you what, most of the time, I walk down, I see them, and I turn the other way. I do that all the time. But what if there's a reason we're there at the same time? What if they're going through something? And God goes, I know, I'll put Casey in that grocery store because he'll share the gospel with them. And then I don't. And that was the whole reason they're there, was to interact with you. We treat people like they're an inconvenience for us. Being like Jesus means welcoming interruptions. Being like Jesus means, yes, I have things to do. Jesus had a plan. He was going places. He was doing things. He had a schedule. He had an itinerary. But you know what? Sometimes things come up. And Jesus had his priorities straight. And he welcomed those interruptions. Every interruption is a little gift from God. An invitation for you to participate in what he's asking you to do. It's a little invitation for you to be like Jesus. Every little interruption. John 15:13 says, greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friend. I'd like to add a couple descriptors there. What does it mean to lay down your life? Greater love is no man than this, than to lay down one's life, one's schedule, one's to-do list, one's productivity, one's hurry, for one's friends, their neighbors, their co-workers, their family, their kids. Your life's more than just getting what you need to get done. It's far more than your to-do list. It's practice being present. The other day, I was sitting in class. It was kind of like the passing period. And I heard a little ruckus in the hallway, so I got up. All right, And there's a bunch of kids just like frantically talking. Go over to check on what's going on. Then I realize there's like 5 kids piled in the bathroom. I'm like, oh gosh, what's going on here? And one of the kids locked himself in the stalls because he was crying. He wanted us to see. Yelling there, what's going on? What's going on? Trying to figure out why he ran away from them. So I got him all dispersed. I said, hey, go back to class. Then I'm sitting in my classroom, and this kid walks in. And he sits down, and he starts kind of telling me what's going on. But I had football practice. So I gotta leave right after class. I don't have time for this. You know? I've got a commitment. I've got priorities, right? I've got things that I've agreed to do. I'm a man of my word. People should be able to count on me. So you know what I did? I said, screw football practice. And I texted coach and said, I'm not coming today. I'll be honest, that's what I did. It's easy to just say, I have other things to do, and then go do those things. But instead, I sat for an hour with this boy and two of his friends as they wept in my classroom because his parents were getting a divorce. He didn't know which house he was going to have to live in. He was going to have to choose. Football practice? Come on. What's more important? Just being with that kid. Encouraging him. Just listening to him. Talking. Letting him talk, right? I'm not a counselor, but I can sit there and I can listen. And I think that day, that student was the whole reason I was alive. That student. He was the whole reason for my day. Just to be there with him. Just to talk to him. The whole reason. I had 100 other things to do. But I do believe this. And it's kind of like that same principle of tithing. You know, God can do with 90 what you can do with more than you can do with 100. Give God 10%, He's going to be able to use that and bless that. Same thing's true with your time. That's what I found out. When somebody interrupts me, I consider that a tithe of my time. I have 100 other things to do, but you know what? I'm going to stay with this person. I'm going to be with them. I'm going to be present here. And all those things that I have to do, I'm going to believe God is going to give me the supernatural ability to get those done. And I'm telling you what? God's never failed. Not once. Because that day I had football. I was actually giving a devotion after football. And I got there just in time to give the devotion. I'm taking like 15 credit hours, going back to college. Had a bunch of homework to do that day. And you know what? I got it all done. Because God is very good at making things work out for the good of those who love Him and who are called according to His purpose. It's just what He does. And it's just a lesson that Jesus teaches us constantly. It's what you have to do is less important than who you have to be with. It really is. That what is always less than the who. Those tasks, those to-do lists, and Blake, you can come back up, or team, you guys can come back up. It's always less important than the who is right in front of you. Jesus teaches us every single time that the one person in front of you is the most important thing at any given moment. That person. There why you are alive right now. I love just the last few moments of Jesus' life. Jesus is getting, hung on a cross, hands nailed, feet nailed, he's bleeding out. And just what would have to be the most horrific pain you can imagine. And he's hanging on this cross, dying. And you know what he does? It says he looks down off the cross and he sees his mother. And he realizes somebody's going to need to take care of her. And so he has his friend John. He goes, John, hey, you're going to take care of my mom. He's hanging on a cross, dying, tortured to death, and he's thinking of his mom. He's thinking of her because she's who's right in front of him. And he gets that problem solved, and he's thinking, and he's dying still. And he's got one person on his right, one person on his left, and there's one of them spewing insults at him, calling him names, cursing him. You're a joke, you're such a lie, you're not real, you're not the real God. You wouldn't be here, you're just a sinner, you're just a broken criminal like me. And then there's another person on the cross next to him who says, you know, if it's all true, would you remember me when you come into your kingdom? And Jesus isn't like, dude, I can't put up with you right now. I honestly can't even think about anything other than the fact that my bones are exposed and my guts are falling out. That's the reality. That's what it would have been like. You know, I'm a little preoccupied right now. If anybody had the right to say, bro, just be quiet. Let me die in peace. It was Jesus at this moment. Yeah, he looked at the man and said, surely you'll be with me today in paradise. I just love that story. I love that story. Guy never did anything right his entire life. He was a total screw-up, a total loser, criminal, a villain. He didn't do anything right in his entire life except one thing. He trusted in Jesus in the last moment he was breathing. And Jesus had time for him. You know, this Christmas season, I pray that we would have an awareness of those around us. That we would be willing to be present. That we would value the person over our task. We would value the individual over our to-do list. We're not going to do it perfectly. None of us are perfect. There's always going to be times where we prioritize things incorrectly. Let's make a commitment in this countdown to Christmas that we would truly value people. Let me pray. God, I thank you that you set the example. And as Jesus walked the earth, he had so many obligations. He had a job, he had a family, he had responsibilities. He had a to-do list, he had an itinerary, he had a schedule. And time again, he rejected hurry to be present with the people who interrupted him. He welcomed every interruption. And at every turn, he was focusing on the one in front of him. God, I pray that this Christmas season, as we celebrate the gift that you've given us in your Son, I pray, God, that you would help teach us, knowing we're not going to be perfect, knowing we're going to make mistakes, knowing we're going to misprioritize things, but I pray that you would help teach us this season to welcome interruptions, to not treat people like problems, and to be present with the one in front of us. We want to be like you.